It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Britt,
Here.
Gerke,
Here.
Meehan,
Here.
Now.
Here. You should have updated copy of the agenda. I'll take a motion to approve that. What was it? What was the changes on that? The closed session was added.
Okay.
She handed out.
Okay. I think I have that already on mine. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I did give it back. I got it.
Move that we approve it. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from the previous meeting? If there are no additions or corrections, we'll stand approved as presented. Was there any public comments sent in? Seeing we have none, we'll move on to officers' report, chief's report.
All right. Welcome, gentlemen. I've got call on pretty short report tonight. Hopefully everybody's had a little bit of a chance to look over it. We are at 1,136 calls total for the year. That's not for the month. Hallelujah. That is January 1 through the 18th. It's kind of odd giving this update today because it's 65 degrees outside, but due to the recent inclement weather, we have had to implement some inclement weather policies. And essentially what that means in a nutshell is that inter-facility transfers are generally held until the roads are passed. So I-70 shut down for obvious reasons. We're not going to be able to get all that. So, and the way we determine that is the MoDOT travelers map as well as reports from Highway Patrol, Sheriff Department, and anything else that might be out on highway. So, no major equipment pending. We do have some DVR systems in the units that are in need of updating. We've had some failures on that part. So we're looking at options for updating. Those are in the budget this year, of course. So we're just in the initial stages of working around on that. Mileage, this is also from the prior report. It's just a placeholder, no changes on there. No accidents to report. Luckily, with all the ice on the ground, everybody stayed upright and vertical. We did have some issues with the guttering over at headquarters. I think because of our newly insulated and painted roof over there, it actually, we kept the snow and ice on there a little longer than we would have liked this time. And around specifically around the north side entrance, excuse me, the south side entrance over there. I don't know if it's, what we're thinking is it's a venting issue, some premature melting, and it actually bent out the gutter pretty significantly over there. We're trying to determine whether or not we can repair it or we're going to actually have to replace it, but it's been out pretty far. I didn't have a picture at the time of this writing, but it's not terrible. Nothing's hanging off the building. So just there was a lot of snow and ice up there. Other than that, no leaks or any problems with the roofs across the street. Everything stayed great. It's been okay, so good over there. The north exterior bay wall, that's another agenda item, so I won't get into that here. The refrigerator was delivered to Station 2 on the 18th, and forgive my sentence structure here, but we have not installed, but we will be installing a water line for that. And this time we're still waiting the delivery of the oven range for out. Down in Windsor, we did have probably not a unique situation. We had an underground water line freeze between the headquarters and the bay. It's running now. To our knowledge, there was no breaks in it. There was no breaks at either end of the connection. There's PEX line, so I don't anticipate that there's any cracks in the line. But we're looking at a couple ways to maybe keep that from happening. Should we ever get into this extended bitter Arctic cold like we did this year? But as I say, it's running fine now, so no problems at this point. No other upgrades in number 2 activities. Vaccines were going on all day today, a full day, 8 to 5 at the Mowing building at the fairgrounds. At last I heard, as of about 2 hours ago, there were over 900 patients vaccinated out there today. So we're really, really doing well out there at Buffalo. Their event at the fairgrounds, really going well. We are still doing standbys for the Buffalo events at the Mowing fairgrounds. Those have had to be rescheduled a little bit, but done a great job getting the notices out to the public as far as when that's going on. And basically, they know we're a phone call away when they need us. So no special projects. And we are continuing with the Pettis County Joint Communications. They had their third, if I'm not mistaken, committee meeting as far as the folks that are handling actual protocols, priority dispatch, and how things are going to be working among our agency and among the interagency communications. So things are going pretty well right now. Assistant Chief Pence sits on that committee. So if you have any questions about that, you can probably answer them. The only thing I've got for consideration of the board is if we are going to sell Unit 7, I need a PACE reserve price for it at some point. So what's the least amount? I don't think that necessarily needs to be answered right here, right now. I just want to make the board aware of that I do need a reserve price at some point. We're still reviewing some applications for some part-time PRN positions. And as far as any status changes in our staff, we did unfortunately have the resignation of 2 part-time EMTs. This was completely because of other commitments. They worked several other jobs. Both of them left in good standing or are eligible for rehire should they want to come back, but at this time they tendered their resignation. So that is all I have for my report this evening.
Are there any questions?
I have, were there any significant transfers that were delayed because of the weather policy?
No.
Okay.
We move on to the CFO report. Jamie?
Good evening. You should have the sales tax receipts there in front of you. I'll start with that since it's not in your packet. For this month, we received $208,890.37. And for year to date, we're at $473,287. And that's about an 8% increase over last year at this time. Keep in mind, last year at this time, we were still receiving at the decreased rate. So that's part of the increase. It's not all sales. Any questions on that? We're going to go back to the packet now. Page 6 is the bank balances. As of the 18th versus the 4th, pretty close to the same. A little higher, $8,000. And you can see on the CD that we did receive our first interest accrual there of $988.05. And then if you look down below there, I've got February 18th of 2021 compared to February 18th of 2020. There's almost a $500,000 change there. Any questions on any of that? Page 7 is the cash reserve analysis. Again, it just 3.5 days change. So pretty well right on target with where we were at the first part of the month. Pages 8 and 9 are the check register. Anybody have any questions on any of those transactions?
Yes, John.
Mrs. Wolverine, there's wording here that says remote deposit on a couple of places.
Uh-huh.
Explain that. What is that coming in?
So at the beginning of the year, we received a check scanner from the bank where instead of us actually taking our checks to the bank, we scan them through the check scanner just like they do at the bank. So we do a remote deposit. So that's the few checks that we get in the mail at the office.
Okay, the only large deposit I see here is the $208,890.37, and that was our sales tax revenue. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the only large.
They did, they canceled their meeting and they did send us the check. We haven't received it yet. Let me find that email. Tell you how much.
No, that's really not necessary. Mr. Chairman, I think our contract calls for that money to be received by the 15th of February. And if we haven't received that, then that becomes an issue. I'd like to see it on the agenda for the next meeting. That's all the questions I had about these two pages here.
Anybody else have any other questions? Page 10 is the bills that are due, and 11 and 12 is the details of those bills. Anybody have any questions on any of those bills? I did want to remind the board, I had sent out a training on the Missouri FRA that the Missouri Ambulance Association is doing. That is the 24th at 9 a.m. or the 25th at 2 p.m. So my hope is they're going to explain a little bit more about how Medicaid works, the fact that it goes to MOMSAC. They do some stuff and then we receive the money from MOMSAC. So I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about that FRA at that training. And if you guys are interested, it's just a link. There's no registering or anything. You just click the link and join the meeting. That is the end of this portion. Unless somebody had some questions on the bills.
If there are no other questions for Jamie, I would take a motion to approve payment of outstanding bills.
So moved. Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Medical director's report.
As far as the protocol and documentation, everybody is doing a really good job with that. We've had some complex cases. We recently, just within the last few days, had a patient transferred out of here that was having a dissection of his aorta, and we had to transfer him by ground to the plaza. And he coded a couple of times on the way up there, and the medic was able to resuscitate him just fine. I'm really happy with the quality of work that our people do. I'm also encouraged by the increasing numbers of vaccination for COVID that are taking place. It was lagging quite a bit compared to other counties, but with the surge in the vaccinations that have taken place just this week, it really shows that the community is taking this seriously, and I believe they should. Although we may not have had as many, severe hospitalizations or as many deaths as some other areas. I think in terms of getting things back to some semblance of normal, I'm really happy to see that the community is stepping up and getting more vaccinations. So any chance we have to give the community credit for this, I think we should take that opportunity. I don't know how that would take place, but I think we should let them know that we're behind them on this. So unless there's any other questions, thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Good to see you here.
Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to be out of the house.
If there are no other questions for the doctor, we'll move on to unfinished business. First item will be bay window replacement and alley window infill quote.
Don't have anything on the window replacement on the south wall. However, we did receive a written quote from Robert Truner Mason and Company. That is on page 2, faded to tell. I believe it's 13. Everybody get a copy of that? Okay, yeah. Our printer is looking like tie-dye mode, I think is what it's stuck in right now. So not really any other information other than what's on the bid. We obviously with the weather right now, we haven't been able to do anything, especially on the north wall. That is with us doing the demo as we did last time, the removal of existing glass, which we really didn't have any issues with, and then they took down the sills, which, just the bottom edge of it, the single bricks in there instead of the big blocks. But other than that, there's 5 big windows. He did not specify on here, but one of those windows is actually twice as wide as the other one. So last time, I think this falls just about the same range as the last windows as far as per window. And then, like I said, the other one is, most of them are, I believe, 61 wide, and the very wide one is 124 wide. So lots of real estate to cover up back there. But did a very, very good job last time. I don't believe, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't believe that was budgeted, so it would require an amendment at some point, but we went ahead and got the estimate nonetheless. So that's all I got on that.
Is there any discussion on the alley window infill quote?
Mr. Chairman, did they do the other work too?
Yes.
Okay, so they know what's kind of going on. So I would prefer to know more about the expenses on something like that than I do. So. Mr. Brown?
I think the last time we did it,
I think it's decent. Yeah, it's the same number we had
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
And I think we're good.
Jamie, how much do we, excuse me, how much do we have budgeted for this particular item?
For the window replacement, we had 5,000 budgeted.
5,000 dedicated to the project we're doing now.
that's the,
But this is just a portion of it. I mean, we didn't anticipate having to.
that's for the windows. What was
Correct.
budgeted was for the windows, not for the alleys.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this bid and ask Mr. Turner to put it on his schedule as soon as he can get it done. Just knowing what the previous blocking did in the back of that building as far as security and the thermal blockage of removing those windows. So.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. Is there any further discussion?
I guess he's a very reputable fellow and that sort of thing. So the only issue I can see is coordinating the when they don't take the things out when, it's 0 degrees out there. So he'll work with you and let you know when it's going to happen. And that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
we pretty much, last time we did it, we got it done in one day, and he was in there
Okay.
blocking them on the same day. So
That's great.
that's good. Plan for a good stretch of weather, and we'll get that right on the schedule. Hopefully.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Work comp bid opening. Katie has those. Both had 2 bids, and I mean, both companies are represented tonight. We have a bid from Insurance Benefits Group, and one from Mike Egan. Any gentlemen want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Brendan Hurley. I'm with Insurance Benefits Group. We're the incumbent agent. We currently got you guys with Missouri Forest Mutual. After working with Eric and Roy and of course Jamie, we've kind of gone over some things and some safety initiatives that have been going on the ambulance district. And I mean, it's really helped us kind of drive down where min is and where their rate is. And in fact, this year, due to 2 years in a row of being under a 50% loss ratio, we were able to obtain, get the program out of key accounts and into premier accounts. It's just a different rating tier that Missouri Forest Mutual has, and it's equated to really a better rate. So, we went through and wrote a narrative based on all the drug screenings, all the power cuts that have been purchased, the decontamination procedures following all the alleged positive COVID events with the purchase of UV lights and air scrubbers, and the list goes on of everything that the district is doing to make this a safe environment to work. And NIM has recognized that, and I think it shows, and of course, their decrease in the premium offer. So, last year it was rated up at about $146,613 for the workers' compensation coverage. And that did include an audited amount that came back after they figured out overtime. But per the bid specifications this year, they came at a renewal of $97,226. And we actually, if you look through our bid, and I don't know, you guys probably don't have copies in front of you, but we went out to about 19 different markets. And we got, many declinations just because it's a very restricted class code business. But we did get 2 quotes. One was the renewal and one was with Berkshire Hathaway, which you guys have been with before. And they came in at about $145,000. So obviously they weren't part of the presentation today. So I know Terry Sweeten has developed a relationship with Eric and Roy. We've got a good procedure in place with them. And some of the things that they're doing just from a service standpoint, from telehealth and nurse triage. It's hopefully you guys have been happy with the service that men has provided, but I would just appreciate, we're local. I'd appreciate any consideration that you guys have. So I know at this time, are there any questions about our bid or?
Was that the 97, was that MEM as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And you say that the reduction is, a lot of it was linked to the investment that the district made in a lot of the items, the core items we did to help protect our employees.
It certainly helps. I wouldn't say that's the majority. The majority of the decrease is still based on claims experience, but all of that in the insurance carrier's eyes, that leads to more, you're taking more investment in what you have to do to decrease claims. And so that's part of our narrative, which does make up leverage for us. If we're trying to negotiate a better rating tier, or we're trying to get a better deal for the district, all of that helps us create a narrative that we can send on to the carrier to help with that initiative. So cool. And then of course, they still have their grant program that I want to get, you guys for I know there's one ambulance we talked about that still needs a lift, and even though it's not one of the ones we use very often. But anything you can think of, a grant initiative for up to $10,000 for anything safety related, that's something you can apply for with men, and we've seen districts get. They're not unattainable by any stretch. So I keep that in mind, although you can't, that's an intangible. I don't expect you guys to reflect that in the price of our quote, but do realize that's still available and you can apply for it, and I'll help you guys do that.
Are they one time, or are they renewable yearly, or?
Yeah, every year Yeah. I talked to our representative today, and they're still going forward with it. We got an inkling that they might phase out the grant program, but as of right now, they're still. Yep. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
We're ready to do.
I don't know if you can tell, we're looking at him.
You ready for me?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all for your time. And before we get too far in, I would like to see if the proposed terms from NIM, what the rate per 100 was. Because in work comp, the rate per 100 is the thing you want to look at. The premium, or the premiums, can be impacted by payrolls. And I know you guys had bid specs, but if we use the same payrolls and MIM's rate is lower to where they can come in so much less than the previous year or what we can offer this year, then that may be the best alternative for you guys. So were you all presented with a proposal where you can see the rate per 100 or the net rate per 100 that was charged?
Yeah, it's included in there. Yeah, for EMS, it's $5.16, and then clerical, it's just 15 cents.
Okay. So our program is coming in at $5.31 per 100. And we've offered terms from a company called Benchmark Insurance. It's also known as 7710 Insurance. And we are one of the exclusive agents in the state of Missouri. No one else in our marketing territory is going to be able to have access to the 7710 program other than us and the program administrator. Due to your claims history, and it is improving, and I think that's a great decision you all have made to invest in the power cots, because as I was reviewing at the beginning of the meeting, reviewing your losses, the majority of the larger losses are coming from lifting, pulling, straining. So anything that you can do to train your personnel about how to effectively load a patient onto those power cots, but the power cots themselves are going to help tremendously. I know they're about 40 plus, maybe they're more now, 50, 60,000, but they will help reduce your work comp costs. So bravo for making that decision. So my rate is at $5.31 per 100 on the ambulance class code of 7705. We used a payroll of $2,563,001. And then we had the clerical came in at 15 cents. So that's all the clerical is going to come in low like that. The benchmark program is not the it's not the lowest rate though. That's the lowest rate I could get you guys qualified this year because the program, because of your loss history, how it's been trending, while it is trending better, you've had some pretty big losses back in 17, 18, and then the 18, 19 term. And some of those losses are still open. So I was doing some homework here before the meeting. It looks like with the Missouri Rural Trust, there's still some claims open. So I don't know if those are in litigation or what, but now that I'm involved in your account, those are going to be some claims that we're going to try to get closed for you all to help, and that will help with your experience mod. When I look at your experience mod, you guys have a 0.97, which that's good compared to where you've been because 1.0 is the standard. But when I do the calculation to figure out what your minimum mod is or could be, your minimum mod could actually be a 0.65 by looking at the NCCI worksheets, which means you're essentially paying 32% more than you need to be paying. That if you had no claims over the last 4 years, your premiums could drop by 32% from when they were calculated off of this NCCI worksheet. Now, it won't be 32% less than Brendan's 97. It would be based off of what they calculated your mod off of for your 21 experience mod. So I think there's some continued effort that could be implemented there to continue to work and manage your claims, make sure they get closed out properly, make sure that you've got the proper, you guys can direct the care so that you don't have an injured employee and that they get to go to their primary care physician and that primary care physician's seen that injured worker since they've been a toddler and it's really nice out this week, so do we want to have a week off? That affects your bottom line when it comes to workers' compensation. And if we can direct that care to a work comp medical professional, then they can help get those people back to work quicker. The 7710 program, their mantra is prevention, cost containment, treatment, and time claims management. So the cost containment piece would be like your light duty, your return to work, and making sure that you have all those things in place. 7710 was created by fire and EMS, for fire and EMS people, so they feel like they've got a better understanding of the exposures that you all have. But the bottom line for this year is that the best premium I could come up with, given the circumstances, is $129,442. Now, the goal would be to put you in a program similar to this, or that we strive to get to the lower rates, which are with 7710. So there's two different companies. There's a company called Benchmark, which is the A-rated paper, and then 7710, who was bought by Benchmark and now has an A-rated paper. The rates on 7710 are 26% less. So when you look at my $5.31 base rate, if I could get you qualified for the 7710 paper, that'd be a $4.26 base rate. You weren't eligible this year because of the way the claims over the last 4 or 5 years, but this would be the direction that we would want to take you. And when you look at, let me do some real quick math here, 2563. Well, even when I do the math, I'm still going to be real close to Brendan's number. So MIM has offered you a whale of a proposal this year. That's going to be very hard for us to match from a numbers perspective. If there's something else other than just the premium that our firm could offer you, you know, we'd be happy to entertain working with you all and MIM this year and working on other options, but this is a public bid, and I think it would appear that he's the winner based on my assessment. But ultimately, that's your all's decision.
To be honest with you, I think that's standing up.
Any questions for these two gentlemen?
Thank you for your time.
Okay, for your time there. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bid?
I assume we would need some sort of a motion or something to accept. Or we assume that both of these have met bid specs. Is that, did somebody look at that to see if that's?
They weren't open, so Jamie really needs to review them and see what they both.
Okay. So whatever we did would be subject to that.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Are we on a timeline of when we need to get this done?
There's plenty of time from a standpoint of implementing it. This is the April 1st renewal.
Okay.
So if you guys have another meeting in a few weeks, that should be plenty of time.
Would you want to review these two bids, Jamie, and make sure that they meet the specs and then give us a recommendation at the next meeting?
Yes, sir. We can do that. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you.
Thank you all for
Yeah.
your time. Appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you. We'll table that for this evening and move on. District 5 vacancy. We had one applicant, and that was Adam Cox, and I believe he's here. Look, everybody saw his application. If there's any questions for him.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm enjoying watching you compete.
Since he was the only applicant, I would take a motion to approve him to fill that position.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I think we kind of scheduled the swearing in for the next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you.
Annual mowing bids, add and specs.
So, I guess with the weather today, you can believe that grass will be growing soon, but last week you wouldn't have guessed that. So last year we did this at this meeting. We looked at our bid specs. The one thing I did want to ask you gentlemen was if you wanted to do something similar to what we did with the snow removal. We did a multiple year contract instead of just 1 year, so we don't have to address it every year unless it's needed. But that's up to you guys. The bid specs are written as an annual bid for the grass mowing. And that's only at TT and 16th Street on this bid. That's what we did last year.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You know, that's a good suggestion. But I can remember us doing something like that, very similar to our accounting mechanism. And we put out there, this is what it will be for 2021, and then this is the bid for 22 and 23, in other words, a 3-year term. Is that what you're proposing, that they do something like that as opposed to where they have to bid, that it's going to be the same rate for the whole next 3 years?
Correct. Yes, they can give us a different rate for each year. Just
Okay. That makes logical sense,
Yes.
but I just wanted to confirm that. Mr. Chairman, the page numbers on mine are in yellow, but I think it's page 15, which is where it's all written out. And I think I brought this up last time that we did this. It's the very last, second to the last sentence in the first paragraph. And it says local proposers based out of Pettis County highly desired. You know, my verbiage, that kind of is confusing. Why would we not say local proposers based in Pettis County are highly desired? In other words, we're looking for folks that live in our backyard, right? Okay, so that would be my only suggestion, and that's just a minor thing. And Mr. Chairman, if you're looking for a motion for this,
Yes.
I would so move that we do exactly as our CFO is suggesting and bid it out and do it for a 3-year period based upon possible annual increases.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Move on to new business, board training.
Yeah, I asked that to be on there. I sat down with management. Part of my background's kind of in training. When I was in the restaurant, I was a training store. When I did insurance, I helped the district manager train new agents. And then when I was at the school, we had accreditation and we had manuals that we had to put together. And I thought it might be helpful if I use that knowledge to help put a notebook together that would be for new board members. Since we possibly could have new board members every year. But before I started doing that, I wanted to make sure the board approved that because I didn't want to waste a lot of time because I had nothing to do. And I wanted to make sure I left that open. Went fishing yesterday and today, so just for a few minutes, but you know, I could have been working on this. And the things, I had 25 questions basically, or topics that I put down, which I can share with the board, because you guys have been on it a lot longer than I have. So I can share this with you, and then you can, maybe that will trigger something in your mind, and you can send me another item. I will then compile them, put them in categories for tabs in a notebook, and get with Eric and, you know, have him help me with it too. And so with the board's approval, I'll proceed to do that.
I think it's a great idea.
Great.
Yeah.
I want a gold star too.
Blue.
Oh, wait, I'm not a teacher anymore.
Won't be any money associated with this gold star.
Yeah.
You might even get with Justin.
Well, if I could though, Mr. Chairman, you know, when I came on the board 3 years ago, the chief gave me, and I can tell you now that it's about this thick as a 3-ring binder.
Yeah.
But about half of it in there is stuff that I put in there, I think, since then. So, have you looked at that, Mr. Dale?
I did,
Okay.
but I'll look at it again.
Well, yeah, I mean, because some of that might already be there, but, you know, there's been, I mean, in 3 years, I can tell you there's been some good changes too, so.
Yeah, and it needs to be reviewed on a yearly basis.
I think that's ideal. Very ideal.
Sounds like a good idea. Move forward.
Okay, thank you. I think. I'll let you know when I'm done.
Next item is we'll move on to closed session pursuant of RSMo 610.021, section 9. I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All in favor, and that'll be roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.